Hello and welcome to anyone and everyone watching. This is the first video here on my channel. I'm not completely new to YouTube, but I just wanted to start a racing channel. And at least right away, I'm only going to be focusing on NASCAR, but I might definitely branch off into Formula 1 and IndyCar down the road. I've been a big NASCAR fan ever since I was like 5, and I had some pretty good ideas for a channel in my opinion, so here we are. My first video, as you can see, will be a full driver team analysis and grading of every single one of the 63 drivers who attempted a Cup Series race in 2022, now that this season is officially over. I'm just going in descending order of the final driver standings and basically assigning every driver a letter grade and just giving a brief overview of their season, what they did right and wrong. So without any further ado, let's just dive right in. This might be a very, very long video. Might have to be broken into a couple different parts. All right, so Timmy Hill was the only driver in Cup this year to attempt but never qualify for a race. In fact, the only race where more than 40 cars qualified was the Daytona 500, where Timmy and his India Motorsports teammate J.J. Yaley both failed to make the show. Note that's a pretty big blow to MBM. They made very limited Cup starts across the rest of the year, and Timmy never attempted another race. So by never starting a race, he did not even get his name onto the official standings. So I really have no other option than to give him an F. And next up in the actual points, and first guy in the actual points is Andy Lally. A couple of disclaimers here first. All the drivers who had 0 points this season in Cup are technically tied for 42nd place or just not ranked. But I'll be listing them in order of how many points they would have earned if they did compete for points. So for example, Noah Gragson and AJ Allmendinger will be towards the very top of the no points guys, and also pretty much all the guys who earned no points. They competed in other series this season, but I'm just going to be only focusing on their Cup Series performance in this video. So Andy Lally, he only ran COTA with Live Fast Motorsports, qualified and finished last, only completing 19 of the 69 laps. He was, however, running inside the top 35 when he was hit in the left rear and broke a control arm. So yeah, grading him and the next few drivers is going to be pretty difficult since there's really little or nothing to show for them for this season. But I'm just going to have to give him a flat F for this season. We know Andy is a great road course ringer, and there aren't really a whole lot of expectations for a Live Fast car. But then again, I can't really give him a D because he barely made it past stage 1. So yeah, starting off with an F for Andy Lally. Next, we have Scott Heckert, who also only made one start with Live Fast, this time at Sonoma. Scott qualified 35th and finished 33rd out of the 36-car field, 1 lap down to the finish. And again, there weren't really any expectations. Scott's a pretty solid road course ringer in Xfinity, just like Andy Lally is. But he was a lap down when a whopping 31 cars finished on the lead lap, and the guys who finished worse than him had been involved in some type of incident. So I'm going to have to give him a D just for making it to the finish there. Next up is Parker Kligerman. And Parker had a great 2022 in other series. Has a very good opportunity ahead of him, full-time with Big Machine Racing and Xfinity next year. He'll probably get a championship threat with them right away. But in the Cup Series, he only made one start this year, driving the number 15 Ford for Rick Ware Racing at Gateway. Parker started dead last after catching on fire in practice and finished 31st out of 36 cars. He did finish on a lead lap, completing all 245 laps, which is pretty remarkable for anyone finishing 31st on an oval especially. But basically everyone behind him in the finishing order had been involved in some type of incident. For a guy like Parker, who is known for outdriving his equipment, that's pretty disappointing to be outrun by guys like BJ McLeod and Josh Bilicki, two guys who have very comparable equipment to him. So because of that, I'm probably going to have to give Parker an F for his Cup season this year. John Hunter Nemechek is next. He only made one start this year at Homestead as the replacement for the suspended Bubba Wallace with 2311 Racing. John didn't really have a great season for his standards in Xfinity or trucks either, but again, that's not the focus. He started off his weekend great, qualifying 4th and running up front early on, but due to his own mistake, he spun all by himself on only lap 31. Got some light damage, unfortunately, would cost him any shot at a good finish. He was able to bring it home in 27th, 1 lap down. That was definitely not how he wanted his weekend to end. This is a really good opportunity for him. But yeah, the only thing saving John from F is his great qualifying run, so I'll send him off with a D. Next, we have Austin Hill. He made one start at Michigan in a third RCR car where he started 31st and finished 18th on the lead lap. getting a top 20 in your debut is pretty impressive no matter how you spin it. So I would say Austin and RCR did what they aimed to do, just getting some experience and bringing it back in one piece, completing all the laps. Because of that, I'll give Austin a C+ for his season. Zane Smith had a very similar season to him, also only making one start, which was his Cup debut, filling in for a sick Chris Buescher at Gateway. Pretty much his only expectations were to not wreck and finish top 25, but he went way above and beyond, coming to the line in 17th place after qualifying 32nd. Not to mention on the lead lap and straight up beating guys like William Byron, Cup champion Chase Elliott, and the pole sitter for the day at Chase Briscoe. With all that said, I'm going to have to give Zane the first B of the video, and just to be clear, I'm ranking a lot based on driver expectations and the equipment they have, so it'll take much, much more for like a Cup veteran to get a B than a guy who only made one start, and that also happened to be his first ever start. So Justin Allgaier is next on the list. He is the first driver on the list to have completed 2 races, finishing dead last at Bristol Dirt with Spire Motorsports after a crash on lap 74, and finishing 30th 2 laps down at Talladega. And yeah, this is pretty much what I expect from Allgaier in Cup at this point. He'll be great and win a couple races in Xfinity, but then he'll get 1 or 2 opportunities in Cup every season and just absolutely flop in them. So I'm unfortunately going to have to give Allgaier an F. Next up, we got Ryan Preece. Preece made 2 starts for Rick Ware Racing in the number 15 Ford, finishing 25th at Dover, but then finishing dead last in the Coke 600 under the damaged vehicle policy, only completing 16 laps. Preece had about as much of an up-down season as you can have in only 2 starts, starting off impressing everyone at Dover by qualifying 13th and running top 20 for a lot of the race, but then being the cause of a multi-car accident just by spinning by himself and taking last way too early in the 600-miler at Charlotte. And with all considered, I'll give Preece a flat D, and I certainly hope to see him succeed next year full-time with Stewart Haas Racing. F1 driver, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, so forgive me. I think Daniel Kivat is up next, and he had pretty much 0 expectations this season, not having competed in any aspect of NASCAR, on top of racing with a new Heisenberg, I don't know how to pronounce that either, slash Reum Brothers team. Is absolutely is a recipe for failure. I mean, it's basically the worst truck series team trying to run next-gen cars. Like, how do you think that's going to go? All of his 3 starts came at road courses, but unfortunately, he never even got a chance to run a full race, with mechanical problems taking him out very early at the Indy road course in Charlotte Roval. He didn't make it to the finish at Watkins Glen, but only completed 58 of 90 laps, also due to mechanical issues. This is a hard one for sure to grade. His team was responsible for all of his bad finishes technically, but then again, if he didn't have those issues, he probably wouldn't have finished much better due to lack of experience and based off of his qualifying runs. So I'll just pass him with a D and move on to our next driver, Josh Williams. Josh made 3 starts for Live Fast Motorsports, all at unique tracks, Bristol Dirt, the Indy road course, and the Charlotte Roval. And well, he did better than expected overall, netting 2 25th place finishes and a 31st place, respectively. During the early and middle parts of the races, he was typically near last, but he avoided all the chaos, raced clean, and had a respectable and even impressive finishes for Live Fast standards. So, because of all that, I'll give Josh a C+ for his Cup starts. Next up is Kaz Grala, a personal favorite driver of mine, so I'll try to keep my bias and rambling under control. I've got to say, though, first, Kaz is one of the most underrated part-time guys out there, and I sincerely hope he gets a good full-time ride for next season. But in Cup this past year, he was the main driver for the new Money Team Racing associated with Floyd Mayweather. Kaz started out by nearly missing the Daytona 500. He did qualify due to a last lap pass on J.J. Yaley, as Kaz had gotten behind from a pit road speeding penalty. Then in the 500, he unfortunately couldn't keep the draft due to his poor equipment, but was able to stay out of trouble and bring it home in 26th place. At COTA, he raced hard all day and finished 25th on the lead lap. And then in his final start in the Coke 600, he was put in one of the worst performing cars the whole season, going 13 laps down, simply due to the car's lack of speed. But due to the absolute wreckfest the race was, Kaz actually netted his best finish of the season of 23rd. And all in all, I'll give Kaz a flat C for never finishing worse than 26th in arguably the worst car in the field. Loris Heisemans, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but he is next up. He made 5 starts, all of his own team, with the combination with the Reum Brothers effort team there, all at road courses, similar to his teammate Daniel Kivat. Mechanical problems plagued a lot of his starts, but in his final 2 races at Watkins Glen and the Charlotte Roval, he made it to the end, finishing 33rd both times, but off the lead lap. It's pretty much exactly where I think he'd be expected to finish, but that doesn't really make it any better, so I'll have to give Loris a D, just like his teammate, Daniel. Garrett Smithley made 6 starts this season for Rick Ware Racing, all at oval tracks. Most would have probably had absolutely no expectations for Garrett entering the season, but he ended up with 2 very impressive finishes, 21st at Auto Club and 23rd at Texas, both on the lead lap. He was also having a career day at the July Atlanta race, running inside the top 15 with 91 laps to go before he directly caused a multi-car crash at the end of the days of William Byron, Tyler Reddick, and Ty Dillon, as well as costing himself any shot at a good finish with all the damage he collected. Because of that stain on an otherwise impressive season by Rick Ware Racing standards, I'll have to give Garrett Smithley a D+. Without the Atlanta incident, I'd probably give him a flat C or C-. Daniel Hemrick's next up. He's the 2021 Xfinity Series champion. Really didn't have a great season in either Xfinity or Cup this year, though. His part-time Cup campaign with Colleague Racing started off on a high note with a 12th place in the Daytona 500, followed by a pretty head-turning 9th place finish at Auto Club after 5th place running qualifying. Unfortunately, that was basically where Hemrick's season took a turn, and his average finish dropped to a 23.3 after competing in only 7 more races. He did, however, end his season with a respectable 17th while filling in for Ty Gibbs in 23-11 racing in the season finale. So all things considered, I'll give Hemrick a C-, but I feel like I very easily could have given him a D. Ty Gibbs, this season's Xfinity champion and the enemy of the people, got thrown into the water, figuratively speaking, when Kurt Busch got injured. But without any prior Cup experience, Gibbs filled in for Busch for the rest of the season, scoring only 1 top 10 and 15 starts. Well, for a regular driver in the situation, expectations would be very low, and Ty's average finish of 22.9 would be just fine, but for the soon-to-be Xfinity Series champion and the guy that won in his first Xfinity start, I'd have to say I was a little underwhelmed. I expected at least a few more top 10s and maybe even a top 5 given that many starts. On top of that, Ty was not shy to make more enemies, most notably after deciding to intentionally side-slam the number 42 of Ty Dillon on pit road during active stops. That was a huge safety violation, and moves like that are why Ty is enemy number 1 amongst NASCAR fans right now, and why I'm going to have to give him an F for his 2022 Cup season. Josh Bilicki competed in 16 Cup races this season, all with a 77 team for Spire Motorsports. Bilicki's average finish of 29.1 was about as expected, with his best race coming with an impressive 16th place at the Spring Atlanta race. Known to be best at road course racing, he also recorded 2 22nd place finishes at COTA and the Indy Road Course, respectively. On the downside, Bilicki had 3 DNFs due to crashes, all of which were early on in the race, so I would say his season would average out to be about a D+ overall. Landon Castle raced 17 times this season, also in the number 77 for Spire Motorsports, with a higher average finish than Bilicki with a 24.1. Castle went on an absolute tear on the super speedways, finishing top 20 in all 4 Daytona and Talladega races, including a career-high-tying 4th place at the August Daytona race. Granted, that race with the definition of a wreckfest, Castle still achieved a lot more than most probably thought he would in 77 this season, again, including outperforming the guy who was sharing his ride throughout the season. And for that, I'll probably have to give Castle a solid C for 2022. Next up is Noah Gragson, who made 18 starts in 2022, the first of which were on a scheduled part-time basis with Colleague Racing and Beard Motorsports, in the later half of his season filling in for an injured Alex Bowman at Hendrick Motorsports. However, his average finish of 23.1 is average at best for Colleague standards and certainly well below Hendrick Motorsports standards. Similar to Ty Gibbs, Gregson had an incredible Xfinity season but just really didn't step up in the Cup Series. There was speculation the 48 car might have been largely ignored by Hendrick after Bowman's injury, but regardless, only netting 1 top 10, a 5th place at the aforementioned Daytona Wreckfest in August is pretty inexcusable for an Xfinity driver as good as Gragson. But because he at least didn't create any major safety concerns like his rival Ty Gibbs, I'll spare him from an F and instead give him a D+. So hopefully we see some major Cup improvement for Gragson next season as he goes full-time with Petty GMS. Next on the list is AJ Allmendinger, who absolutely earned his full-time ride with Colleague for 2023 after his part-time stint with him this year. In 18 starts, AJ only had one DNF due to brake failure at Dover and earned a career-high average finish of 15.4. Despite not scoring a win like he did in 2021, this season proved that AJ, who's already had a full career resurgence in Xfinity, deserves another shot full-time in the Cup Series. Despite being known strictly as a road course specialist in Cup throughout his whole career, AJ tallied 3 top 10s on ovals, including a 3rd place at Homestead, where he was in contention for the win on the final laps. On top of that, he finished runner-up at Watkins Glen and in total had 8 top 10s and 3 top 5s. One could easily argue this was the best season of AJ's whole career in Cup, rivaled only maybe by 2014, where he had won at Watkins Glen and made the playoffs. That being said, I'll give AJ the first A of the video. I'm only holding out from an A+ due to his first half being rather lackluster and the fact that he did fall short of winning. Next up is JJ Yeley, who had about the most expected JJ Yeley season ever. No top 10s, an average finish of 29.9, and a season-high finish of 23rd coming at Darlington in the fall Bristol race. He missed the Daytona 500, as already mentioned, by being passed on the last lap of his dual race by Kaz Grala, and had 3 DNFs, 2 of which were due to crashes. Absolutely nothing notable from Yeley. 19 starts, which in my opinion warrants a D, even accounting for his very subpar Rick Ware and MBM Motorsports equipment. Next, with 29 starts for his own team of Live Fast Motorsports, BJ McLeod is the last of the no points earning drivers. In a very similar season to Yeley, McLeod had an average finish of 29.1, with his season highlight being a 7th place at the August Daytona Wreckfest. He had 7 DNFs, although only 2 were crash-related, and he had only 2 other top 20s the whole season besides Daytona. For Live Fast standards, I would say McLeod, the co-owner of the team, does exactly what's expected and not a whole lot else, which to me earns him a D+, a 1-up over Yeley, simply because McLeod was skilled enough at least to avoid all the 100 or so wrecks and the active rain during the summer Daytona race. And yeah, that's going to be the end probably for the first segment of the video here. Probably going to end up breaking this into 3 parts and doing like the first half of all the, probably up until like 30th place in the points for the next video. And then finally either doing like the top 25 or top 30 as the final part of this video. So yeah, make sure to subscribe and like the video if you did enjoy it, and stay tuned for those next parts. But until then, peace out.